Walk with me through the cellar door.
The storm is coming, Princess.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
And that's where we come in, right? I think that is. Hold on.
Usually.
Hold on. Oh shit! Did we miss it? Hello? Can you? Oh, you can hear me. Haha. Welcome back to another episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. This is episode 44. We're dropping hot like it's hot. We are, but
we're Snoop Dogg and Pharrell. That's how we're rolling now.
We are, and we did pre-record this episode a whole week in advance, and we are very sorry it's a little shorter tonight. I've going on vacation for a week and a half with a bunch of family, extended family. We're not going to have audio recording equipment, and Hannah didn't feel like breaking into my house and finding it. So he's like, we'll just throw something together. Hold on, let me, I got something in my ass. Oh, there it is. Look, this is what we're going to have. But in all seriousness.
Yeah, people are going to want to listen to it now. We just pulled a big steaming pile, and that's what we're going to feed them. Yeah, it's going to be a great show. Here's
well, we could talk about Stephen King for the next, hours. So, last night, my buddy came over, and he's a big Stephen King fan. We annoyed the hell out of my wife because we're both reading the same Stephen King book, Dr. Sleep.
The new one?
The new one, yeah.
Well,
it's not new, but it's 2 years old.
Wow, that's not new at all.
It's not new. Anyway, but we annoyed my wife because we were spending quite a bit of time talking about Stephen King, and, she's not a big Stephen King fan. But anyway, all these tangents. We decided tonight we record a little bit of a shorter episode because we don't want to disappoint the fans. We don't want to make sure we miss a week. We really want to make sure we provide quality content. But this week we're going to only have two segments, and we're only going to talk twice. So it's less commercials, which is, I guess, good.
That's good, yeah.
So I'm going to give a quick commercial plug. If you're listening right now, head over to iTunes and throw us some sort of a rating. Subscribe to us. Go over to Patreon. All the money that you donate just helps fund the Spreaker page right now, and will help pay off Hannah's mic that we had to finance through Bank of America because we're so poor we can't
borrowed
afford
money
it.
From China.
We borrowed money in the TPP. Anyway, so tonight we thought we'd do a light segment a little bit, and we talk a little bit about satanic clubs coming to schools near you.
That's awesome.
But before we get into that, we wanted to play something that we recorded, I don't know, probably 2 years ago with Lucian Greaves of the Satanic Temple, and he kind of explains what Satanism is. We're also going to talk tonight, about something called Volkswagen, their payouts, the wrong place, the Knox scandal. What?
And the nitrous oxide.
The nitrous oxide. Yeah, you could tell we have not been drinking. Anyway,
nope.
we're gonna talk about Volkswagen, their EPA issues, and their $147 billion settlement, and where all that money went and who it went to. But before we get into that, I thought we would play the Satanist thing that we recorded about a year and a half ago, and I wanted to play. It's real short, but I wanted to play because Lucian Greaves comes on and talks about back then what Satanism is, how it's different from atheism, and then it talks a little bit about the different avenues and theories that are out there. And so I thought, without further ado, let me bring Lucian Greaves in. Let's have that conversation, and then when we come back, Hannah and I are going to talk more about the new clubs coming to a school by you.
So the title of tonight's show is What in the Devil is Satanism?
At the very least, being a Satanist is an open declaration of revolt against counterproductive received wisdom and mindless rote tradition. Basic first-level Satanism embraces blasphemy as a declaration of independence from oppressive religious cultural programming. Satanism is what's described as a left-hand path religion, with an emphasis on distinguishing oneself as an isolate intelligence and individual apart, as opposed to the right-hand path religions, such as Christianity, that strive for this sense of spiritual wholeness with the one, fealty to a higher power. But I think the core motivations are consistent throughout community, and that's a rejection of arbitrary authority, the preservation of personal sovereignty, pursuit of knowledge, and an impulsive draw toward the hidden, obscure, or the maligned. The Satanist embraces an outsider status while refusing to be a victim. It might be shocking to the rest of the world, and that might play some role into the draw towards it, but it's also very liberating on its own to people who embrace it, depending on how they grew up and what kind of superstitions they were fed with, to see that they can embrace the blasphemous without consequence, and they feel, for lack of a better term, a type of transcendence from that. Well, no, we reject supernaturalism entirely, and we're quite open about being an atheistic religion. And there again, people seem to imply that, well, then this can't really mean anything to you in any religious sense, since it's not being dictated to you by some imaginary being. And we feel that's completely improper. And for what we're doing, part of the political message is that you can't give privilege and exemption to superstition over non-superstition. We feel we have all the elements of a religion that a religion should have. We have that sense of community and cultural identity and a narrative structure that contextualizes our works and our goals, so that our values are no less deeply held for being part of a metaphorical religious construct than for the fact that we don't believe that we're actually being looked upon by some unheavenly father who's encouraging our devious deeds or whatever else. It became clear to me that this could be a useful tool politically, that another religious voice needed to be represented in the church-state debate. And the only religion I could legitimately claim is Satanism. There's no real purpose for me to be part of any organized, established religion other than to effect change towards a positive benefit in the real world. It doesn't do anything for me to simply scare my family and friends with the label of Satanism, or dress up in robes or anything silly like that. I feel like the mission we have with the Satanic Temple is far stronger and far more responsible. I guess if you're going to ask why should we call ourselves that, that's a question that really doesn't come up in any other religion, and I feel like the question only comes up because with deference to the people who may be offended because we do. And it's not only that I don't care if people are offended that there's people who identify as Satanists. I really feel there's a positive value in confronting these people with Satanism and bringing Satanism out as something that's not necessarily criminal, destructive, or cruel. To just simply call ourselves atheists, I think would that's not. I think we're something more narrowed down than that. We do have a set of values that aren't necessarily shared by atheists. Atheist is a real broad category, as well it should be. And some people, I don't think atheism should be taken as a religious category. I mean, it's a religious opinion, and that's also protected. But I think it's improper for people to say, well, atheism is just another religion, because that's something the religious like to say to try to pretend that that atheism is just as untenable or faith-based as their superstitious beliefs. We can't do that in the name of theism alone.
And there you have it, folks. Straight out of the devil's mouth. And so I had to play that just because it brings back memories, good memories. Hannah was on that episode with me, so that was back in the day when we were carefree and just loved what we did. Now we're a little too serious.
Now we're all serious and angry and stuff, drinking on the job and everything. No big deal.
And you yelling at Trump. You get off our lawn, kids. Get off our lawn, Trump.
That's right. This was the gardening in your yard house
improvement show.
Yeah, we were just boring old dudes.
You're right, but I think this was important to play, right? Because for me, the conversation is that I always get is, well, Satanism is wrong, blah blah blah, and a lot of theists and Christians believe, there's an actual Satan, there's an actual devil, blah blah blah. We don't want that in our schools, but this is an open opportunity. And last week we talked to Dennis Murphy, a new congressman, who talked about getting rid of the separation of church and state to the point where there is no sponsored religion involved in any politics. And he was very adamant about that and talked about his ties with the CFI, how he knew Jennifer and Jeff, how he was part of the Free Thought Association before they became the CFI, all sorts of things. But the big thing comes here is, we never asked the question because we ran out of time, but what is the big thing with these new satanic clubs? Is he against them or is he for them? Should we be against them? Is this something that we want to look at and go, well, maybe it's not something we should be as proud of as, we were before? Because the big thing here is they're only necessary, right, Hannah? Because Christians are shoving their after-school stuff down people's throats.
Yeah, it's once you open up Pandora's box, just like what we had talked about with Dennis Murphy. It's the same thing. We've mentioned this multiple times, and it's an argument that comes in almost ad nauseum now when it comes to the separation of church and state, allowing schools to support religious groups. Well, you have to let them support all the groups, or say no, there's no religious groups in school. It should be completely secular. Well, if you're going to allow after-school Christian programs, you have to allow after-school Satan program, after-school Buddhist programs, after-school Hindu programs. Like, that's one of the problems with allowing one religion, is you have to let them all in, even the one that scary. Ooh, they wear black clothes and have Baphomet as their moniker.
They got a pentagram on carved into their forehead.
Yeah, but what the big question is like, do you really think that your religion is so weak that if you have a T-shirt that has this cool dude with a bow tie and horns, that he's going to trick your kid into falling for the devil? Like, how strong is your belief in the strength of your God? Blah blah blah. That argument of, they're going to indoctrinate our kids into the ways of the devil. Well, isn't he also the most trickster dude ever? Does it really take an after-school program? I don't think so. I think these schools are just everybody's allowed to bring in their after-school programs. If you want to let one group have one, everyone gets to.
Yeah, and he says in the article from the Telegraph, he says this, he says, we think that when kids are exposed to the idea that they will burn in hell and other supernatural ideas, that there is a positive upshot to being exposed to the presence of satanic after-school program. And he goes on, to talk about that in the clip we just played, because of the fact that Satanism is nothing more than an embodiment of self, a taking back of the word Satan, basically saying, hey, we are one. We don't need religion to be moral. We don't religion to guide us. We have a morality that's built into us, that we've evolved with, and that gives us the ability to, control things in a different manner. And so that's the big thing here, is the satanic after-school clubs aren't there to indoctrinate your children. They're there to basically say, hey, stop.
There's an alternative.
There's an alternative, A. And B, yeah, so you're talking about how horrible Satan is. Let us tell you how awesome he is. And how you're not going to go to hell and burn in hell, because in the end, Satan just is a fictional character, and we should be looking out for ourselves, standing up, building self-confidence, and creating a more humanistic world, which is what Satanism does.
That's the fun thing that most people, they assume the Satanist ideal is just one of, pure, evil, pure, do whatever you want, no moral compass, anything and everything is allowed. But like we heard Lucian Greaves speak a minute ago, it's about maximum, personal freedom, self-autonomy. It's almost a liberal or a libertarian type thing, where it's like, there is no authority. There's no, single authority that exerts power and control over anyone, any people, any country, any universe, world, planet, whatever. It's, people. People are their own gods, I guess, would be probably a good way to take the Satanistic ideal. It's, we are completely sovereign with respect to each other, life, liberty, freedom, stuff like that. Like, that's what these classes and these after school clubs are going to talk about. Or they're just going to talk about cool music and stuff, which is my guess is what they'll probably do. And, they're progressive. They're basically secular atheistic programs. But they use that Satanistic thing as, I would say they use it as, a bit of a symbol, something, a little bit controversial, brings attention, brings, awareness and stuff. But I personally would not use it as a secular thing because of all the negative connotations that it drives. But when you listen to a person like Lucian Greaves explain what they're trying to do, he's not doing some Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson on stage thing where it's, it's all for show. He means what he's saying. He's using the Satanistic imagery, but it's a secular atheistic program. It's a good thing. Some of the stuff that they're talking about, it's just method or the language or the imagery they're using is what drives us to this, whoa, holy crap. And I think it's awesome, but, there's a bunch of different angles to it.
Yeah. In the other article that we looked at, they talk about this. The after-school program would emphasize the Satanic Temple's ideology of scientific rationalism, described as a scientific rationalist, non-superstitious worldview, right? So basically, it's a secular humanist. That's really what they're claiming.
With the scary imagery. Ooh.
Yeah. And the funny thing is Christians are going to be against this. Once religion invades schools, as the good news clubs have, they say Satanic Temple will fight to ensure the plurality and true religious liberty as respected. So basically, they're saying, "Hey, get your shit out of our school systems, and we'll get our shit out. We don't care. But if we got to come here, we're gonna do this instead of teaching you devil worship. We're gonna teach you critical reasoning, independent thinking, fun, and free thought. A fucking website. And so that's the thing. They're going to talk about a liberal agenda, and that's probably more why they care about it. People are offended by the satanic reference, right? I mean, at work, I have a password for one of my programs. It's some super program, right? 666. That's my password. You know why? Because I liked the satanic imagery when I was younger, and nowadays it's easier for me to remember that password because, of the numbers.
Do you add one more 6 for your PIN, for your ATM number?
No, I do not. My ATM number is not that. It's a hell of a lot more complex than that. Thank you.
Stealing your identity just got more difficult.
Yep. But that's the thing behind this, right? Is that it is meant to be in your face, be aggressive. It kind of takes the David Silverman approach, I call it, of atheism. And the best part, though, is that they're going to teach critical thinking, which I think is lacking in our school systems. I mean, my son took a special class he had to qualify for critical thinking, right? You would think they would just give that to everybody. Everybody should get this fucking class. And it was amazing what it brought him out of.
That's cool.
The PR trained for this, and as we, close down this segment, but the PR trained for this is basically getting angry and saying that they're going to indoctrinate them into Satan. Satan after-school programs would be held, and they would just go after your kids to smite evil Christians.
And there'd be weed and sex or something. I don't know, premarital, whatever horrors that they would probably say. I don't know, maybe atheists, other atheists eating babies, whatever their bullshit arguments that they usually give for these types of situations. In no way based in reality, any kind of evidence, any kind of actual experiments, or taking a look at what do these groups actually do. Maybe going and getting involved, asking questions, like a lot of non-believers like to do when they go to church. Hey, we're going to ask you some questions. I would love to see these hyper-religious people go in and sit through one of these classes with these after-school clubs and ask questions. Because they're probably going to get reasonable, rational answers, and it's going to piss them off.
And it will. because they don't know anything other than the attacking, the attack nationality.
Yeah, the question is whether or not the Satanist Club would get angry, because that's one of the things. Like, as a non-believer, and obviously the Satanist Club do the same thing. It's like trying to keep your cool when you're emotionally attacked. When you're relentlessly ad hominem attacked by, conservatives or hyper religious people that are just consistently trying to undermine any kind of rational argument, trying to piss you off, like holding back and being, the better person in the argument usually helps you better. And I would assume that any conservative that went to one of these clubs would just be an absolute psychopath.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, in the National Review is one of the websites. They end their article by saying, but then among this particular group, the so-called scientific rationalists, they don't exhibit logic or empathy, and it doesn't appear to be their strong suit. But I would disagree. The only reason they say that is because if you go the sentence before that, they say attacking millions of decent, loving, law-abiding Christian families might seem like an odd way to accomplish their goal of encouraging benevolence and empathy among all people. And I want to sit there and go, no, they're just showing you that what you're doing, just because you're the majority, you're imposing your privilege on others. All they're doing is turning that around on you.
Well, what's the idea of attack? What do they attack? That's my question. Like, okay, the after-school Satan clubs are attacking something. What are they attacking?
They're attacking Christian beliefs, and that's what it comes down to.
Okay, so essentially offering an alternative immediately means, attacking, war, going on the offensive.
Yeah, that's what this article is claiming.
Yeah. So, I mean, just me saying I don't agree is me attacking them. Well, that's obviously, a faulty premise.
Yeah, they're building a straw man, dude.
Yeah. So these types of things happen. I mean, this group is not specifically attacking. They're offering an alternative, and it's probably, a better, more rational, logical, empathic group, but whatever.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is. And I don't know. I don't know. Again, I'm not super crazy about Satanists, but I can tell you I love it in my music. I like it in my schools because I want my kids to get a different type of an education. And I want to break that Christian monopoly that we have in society. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what, Hannah?
Nitrous oxide and Volkswagen.
Yep, we'll be right back with more Cellar Door Skeptics.
Hey, my name is Wesley. I'm from the Atheist Nomads podcast. Kick back a while and listen to my friends on the Cellar Door Skeptics.
Hi, I'm Ron Reagan, an unabashed atheist, and I'm alarmed by the intrusions of religion into our secular government. That's why I'm asking you to support the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the nation's largest and most effective association of atheists and agnostics, working to keep state and church separate, just like our founding fathers intended. Please support the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Ron Reagan, lifelong atheist, not afraid of burning in hell.
If you guys like what you're hearing on Cellar Door Skeptics, please consider sponsoring us on our Patreon page. Our goal at Cellar Door Skeptics is to help promote more science, skepticism, secularism, and humanism in the world. We want to create better content for our podcast and for you, the listener, all while trying to help promote local activism. We're going to strive to make better podcasts, and I'll tell you what, we're even going to contribute some of the proceeds to charity. So please join us over at Patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics to make sure that you sponsor us for as little as $1 an episode. Thank you guys so much, and prepare for the revolution.
Hey, what's up? I'm Steve Hayes.
And I'm Dave Curry.
And we're from Prophetcast.
And you're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics
on the Fox News Network.
They're not affiliated with Fox.
Everyone's a Fox affiliate.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. Again, remember, this week it's going to be a little bit shorter. Not anything done on purpose, just something that vacation just kind of kills. And we deserve a break. We've been working hard. We've been doing an episode every week, almost every week for a whole year. So please make sure you go out to Spreaker, subscribe to us, throw us a rating on iTunes, sponsor us on Patreon, do whatever you can, because Hannah needs to donate his next $100 to Trump.
I need new hearing aids.
No, you need the help. Well, you're only going to get that through Trump, right?
No,
I think that's how it is. I mean, because you love Trump so much, Hannah, that he gave his one and only begotten son.
The only thing I can hope for is that he throws a big nasty temper tantrum and says, "I quit," and then they tell him that he can't quit because you can't remove his name from the ballot. Apparently, like people have been saying like that it's a legitimate possibility that he'll remove himself from the running or quit, and that the Republicans will have to find somebody new. But apparently, he can't completely remove himself. So we'll see a temper tantrum from a fuzzy-haired child here pretty soon. Hopefully,
he doesn't have fuzzy hair. He has.
Oh, dude, have you not seen?
He has squirrel hair.
Wind.
Squirrel hair.
Whatever you want to call it.
It's like crazy. A squirrel set on his head.
It looks like the hair from the movie Kingpin when Bill Murray and I don't know, Ed Dude or something. They were bowling, I guess. I don't know. You've never seen a movie?
Yes, I've seen the damn Kingpin movie.
Okay, well, your delay of like complete confusion. Like, what the hell is this kid talking about? No,
I don't remember the Trump hair reference, I guess.
Well, no, there isn't a Trump hair reference, but Woody Harrelson and Bill Murray have a bowling tournament that they're both winning in, and they both have crazy, terrible swoop hair. And by the end of it, it's standing up straight because they're running around in the glue, I guess, they used to hold swoop hair down, goes to shit. Kind of like the movie, the Hustler movie with Christian Bale in it. Oh. Anyways, back to the freaking Volkswagen.
Yeah, let's actually talk about something more important than bowling.
Yeah, no. Crappy Dennis Quaid movie, or Randy Quaid movies. That guy's a crazy person. Like Volkswagen. I brought this topic in because nitrous oxide is, terrible, crazy stuff. But what I've been hearing is stuff that makes me kind of about it. The Volkswagen, everybody knows about the Volkswagen basically got in trouble because they told their computers on their cars with a 2.0 diesel that, hey, this is when you're being tested for the EPA testings. And so the computer recognized when it was being tested. So when it was being tested, the computer changed the way the fuel injectors and the fuel system and the exhaust system worked to pass the test. And then as soon as the computer was disconnected from the test, it went back to the thing, a setting that released much more nitrous oxide, but it was more fuel efficient. So like people got more miles per gallon, but it was more harmful to the environment. And that's the whole scandal. This was what happened in 2014.
So how did they get away with making that?
They didn't get away with it. They did it for so long, and then finally, everybody found out about it. It was broken, and they admitted it. They didn't, go through court and say, no, we didn't do it, you're lying. They admitted it. They said, yes, we've been cheating for a long damn time. And tons and tons and tons of horrible, horrible greenhouse gases got dumped into the environment because of this cheating. So like when you hear about Volkswagen diesels having really, really great fuel economy, partially the reason from, I think it was 2009 to 2014, these specific diesels were cheating. They were dumping out more harmful gas to be more fuel efficient. So they got more miles per gallon, but they were more, polluting. And that's the whole thing. Is the company has been found guilty. They admitted defeat, and everybody's like, well, what are you going to do to fix it? Like they dumped out tons and tons of horrible stuff. And so what they're doing is they U.S. regulators have required them to pay the diesel owners as much as $10,000 each. So just the U.S. tab alone will be about $15+ billion in all of these cars. Well, my personal argument is that I get it. Okay, you cheated these customers, and they've been getting great gas mileage and dumping bad stuff in the environment. I don't think those people were harmed. I don't think they were harmed. And, you lied to them. You're going to fix their computer, and it's going to give them worse gas mileage on their vehicle, but it's going to be more environmentally conscious. I think all of that money, that $15 billion, and plus a bunch of other money that they've been, basically charged with, that they had to fix the environment, that money should all go to fixing the environment. It should go to massive sweeping overhaul at any place they can get major reform for, helping out the environment, helping fix their problem and their mistakes, not subsidizing the U.S. economy for people in the U.S. that bought these diesel vehicles. Because I don't think that's going to help. Like, it's just going to make Volkswagen look better and people will continue to buy their cars.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point of their enterprise,
Yeah, it's
right?
marketing.
I mean, it's capitalism. It's like, yeah, we fucked up, and we got to give the money to somebody. So let's give it back to the people that bought cars from us, because in the future they're going to do the same thing.
Yeah, and then we basically skipped this whole really horrible thing about the environment where they did tons of damage, and it hurts the entire planet.
Yeah,
not just
why wouldn't? Okay, look, I'm sorry, but to me, it should be an instantaneous, logical decision to take that money and give it to solar-powered systems, or give it to a committee. Fine, let's not go green, because that's where I would go. But let's take that money and give it to a committee that can decide how to use it to reduce our greenhouse gases.
Yeah, corporations, companies, technology, anything. That there's new technology out there right now. These solar powered units. I don't know exactly how they work, but they're actually removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which is awesome. I mean, that's really new technology that hopefully can fix places like China that are just smog driven.
I mean, think about it. With what'd you say? It was $14 billion or something like that that was coming back
Roughly
to us?
$15 billion, just U.S. Just U.S.
So look at it this way: $15 billion is coming back to the U.S. You could take $1 billion and give it to a couple of researchers to do some statistical analysis and try and figure out, hey, okay, what would reduce greenhouse gases, right? If we let's say we gave everybody in the United States installation, right?
Solar
panels, and ways to store the energy and redistribute through the system. If they took all that money and reinvest it like that, what would be the reduced effect? So let's say right now we're at 200 years before we get to an implosion, right? Yeah. If this would extend it to 400 years, even though that's a lot of fucking money, that would be worth it.
Yeah, the net positive is the important thing here. So, like, what we're looking at is what Volkswagen is doing, giving all these people money. That is a very short-term benefit for them. It's not going to help the environment.
It's not a benefit for the environment. Look, okay, let's be honest. It's not a short-term benefit, Hannah. It's a full-on fuck you in the ass benefit.
Well, yeah,
that's what it is.
It basically restores their settlement. Their settlement restores their market protection. So it's protecting them from being, a big, super strong worldwide car manufacturer, and it's replacing, any major detriment to the market that they would lose because, hey, they scoot over all of this stuff that could potentially be really, really bad in the future. No, we just gave all of our customers a bunch of money, and we're good. No big deal. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's happening. They've been, charged a bunch of money. They've been found guilty, and they have to do a bunch of stuff, but I don't think it's a good idea to give the consumer specifically this. Like, fix their car. Hey, guess what? You're going to get a couple miles per gallon less. That's I'm sorry. That's just the way it's going to work. I would rather the money go, like you said, just $1 billion. Imagine what $1 billion could do just to technological innovation itself. We're seeing problems with things like battery storage, new technology in batteries. They're not as efficient as they could be. That's one of the reasons why solar panels aren't so good. We can't store energy very, very efficiently. Like liquid alkaline batteries and lithium batteries, they store slowly and they don't dump their energy really quickly. There's new things like graphene that have been looked at for hot, really quick storage, like fill up the battery and discharge really quickly. It's really cool stuff. And making more efficient solar panels. Like, that $1 billion could maybe do that.
Okay.
$15 billion, I guarantee could do that.
All right, so hold on. So the EPA article that the government released, right? And they talk about the buyback option, and their buyback option basically kind of talks and says that between $12,500 and $44,000, depending on their car's model, year, and mileage and country where it was purchased,
the size of the loan,
and so yeah, and then they're on top of that going to give 130% of whatever was owed. So let's say you owe $20,000, that's what your buyback would be. The Volkswagen will pay $26,000. So if the whole point of buying those cars back is to take them off the road to reduce emissions,
and then just going to put new ones on that get less mileage.
Yeah. So did anybody do an actual analysis of how much greenhouse gases this will reduce versus investing in new technology?
Well, obviously, new technology is going to. they've been running this stuff for 10 years or however long they've been doing this, and the total amount of dump is, it's a lot larger than it should have been for nitrous oxide, because nitrous oxide lasts much, much longer. So what they do is when they measure greenhouse gases, they measure it in a GWP, it's called. It's considered global warming potential. And nitrous oxide has a global warming potential. It's about 268 years is how long it takes for it to break down. Lifetime-wise, it says GWP time horizon. That's when it's essentially removed from the system. 268 is it's GWP for 20 years, and 298 for 100 years. So it's a pretty high number, because methane is much more potent than carbon dioxide, like 80 times, and that's only got 86 and 34 respectively. So nitrous oxide is much, much more dangerous of a greenhouse gas. In smaller amounts, it can be significantly...
Okay, so why would you be against if they took those cars off the road?
Well, I
then?
wouldn't be against it, but what
that's what they're saying they were taking their money for, Hannah, is they're going to buy these cars.
Well, what they're doing, they say that they're going to basically the buyback, but what they'll do is they fix it. So a lot of these people have an option, just the CPU, it's called mapping. They map your car. The map is the way that the computer runs for your RPM gauge, like for the whole thing. So like, at this speed, this RPM, we'll shift, we'll do this, we'll do that, all the way through going down the highway, and this is your RPMs, just the fuel pressure, everything that's going into your system, the electronic injection and electronic ignition, everything's monitored through your O2 sensors in your exhaust. Well, all of that stuff keeps track of what your car is doing. Well, they put a new map on it, the one it's supposed to have, that gets less gas mileage, but it reduces the amount of nitrous oxide that's in the exhaust. Well, that's what they're going to do for a lot of these vehicles. Like this $12,000 to $20,000 buyback stuff, buying the car back completely. I've been seeing things that it's not going to be as common. Like everybody's guaranteed this size of buyback. Like let's say you have, a couple of $1,000s owed, you're not going to get a whole bunch, or they'll just fix the car you have. They'll just fix it immediately, and it's good. So I have an article here that is from an Italian consumer group, and they said that this is Italian, obviously, so maybe in Italy they're not offering the full buyback that the U.S. may have negotiated for. And it says Volkswagen's diesel fix may actually increase NOx levels and not fix it. So, like, they're peddling some snake oil. And so what we're going to go through it's the Italian consumer group, Altro Consumo. And they're basically saying that they're calling Volkswagen out and saying, no, what you're doing is, you're moving the goalposts. You're not fixing anything. You're potentially damaging everything, because the U.S. got this huge payout, but the results that the Volkswagen justifications got, they're not going to be as good for the rest of the world, like German ministry and stuff like that. So I personally think that the fix that Volkswagen is doing here is not going to be this full-on buyback. It's going to be, we'll fix the cars, we'll sell them back out, we'll get them on the used market or something like that. It's not going to be that difficult for Volkswagen just to buy these cars back and then just take them to the yard and destroy them. So, because Europe has 8.5 million diesel vehicles that would need to be repaired, but they're not going to pull them off completely and just dump them. Like that's really a bad marketing scheme, and we've already seen that Volkswagen wouldn't do something that ridiculous. They're in this to make money.
Yeah. And I don't know. And I guess, so that's the question, the article says Europe has 8.5 million diesel vehicles that may need to be repaired.
So they're going to remap them.
Yeah, so they're going to remap them. And so if that costs $10 billion, right, out of the $15.3 billion, then...
Well, that's just the U.S. alone. Like,
no,
the
hold on.
15.3 is the U.S. The other stuff would be
I get that. That's what I'm saying. Is so... If just fixing it is less money, if there's leftover money, take that money and invest it in new technology.
I would require it.
Yeah. And don't give it back to the people. Don't give it back to the vendors. Don't give it back to the owners. Don't give it back to, I don't know, whoever.
The investors, the people who make money on it?
It just... Let's take and invest in something. And maybe that's a difference. Maybe that's why I'm, more of a democratic socialist than others are, I guess. But I don't see the benefit for this emissions test to go back to consumers, because consumers aren't going to and traditionally don't care specifically just about the environment. They want to consume things. And if I were to walk up to you and say, hey, here's $100, what are the chances you're going to take that full $100 or even the majority of it and invest it in something else? You're going to invest it in something that makes you happy, or you're going to invest it in something that changes how much money you make in the future. So, like, it's illogical to think that they're going to invest it in creating less greenhouse gases and improving the environment. And
well, let's say you offered somebody an option and said, like, here's this really awesome thing. Well, here's this other thing that's kind of cool, not as cool, but it is a little bit more environmentally friendly. Like, I don't think a lot of people think about it. Like, we talked about earlier about recycling and stuff. Like, you purchase items, you have recycling in mind when you purchase stuff. Unfortunately, I would think that the United States average marketplace, the average consumer, doesn't have the environment, doesn't have recyclability, doesn't have that in mind when they're purchasing something. I think they're strapped for cash. It's tough to make money. They do everything they can to get the best deal they can, and they buy the cheapest thing they can get. And, you know, that makes fast food and cheap food and whatever a regular thing, because they got to do what they got to do, and they want to get the maximum amount of happiness for the few dollars they get paid. This kind of, you know, inequality stuff, it'll drive that. And so people don't consistently think about greenhouse gases, environmental damage, because they're just trying to make it by. Well, this kind of story here, like, let's say they put a bunch of money into this Volkswagen thing. Holy crap, you're going to give me more money than I owe to buy back or fix this car, and, you know, I'll be a Volkswagen fan for the rest of my life kind of stuff.
That's true.
It's a great marketing thing. I mean, it's an amazing one. Like the cash for clunkers stuff, the used car market went crazy after that. Like, those kinds of marketing schemes, they're a really good deal.
They are. And that's a sad thing, because in the end, you and I know that, yeah, maybe we won't live to the end of the world. Maybe our children won't live, but their children could see the end of the world. And that's disgusting, right?
It's sad.
Why should we end our race over that? And even a
the end
nihilist
of humanity anyways. Maybe the planet won't get destroyed.
Yeah, but our human species will disappear. So instead of worrying about that or wanting that or desiring that or allowing that to happen, why wouldn't we work to create a world where humanity can thrive until it kills itself off? I don't know. I guess. I don't have the answers.
Hopefully we don't kill ourselves off.
I'm just the guy that tells it. Make sure you tune in next week for another episode of Cellar Door Skeptics, because we got more amazing. And I haven't said that all episode.
I was going to say, I think this might have been one episode where we skipped it.
Yep, more amazing, we haven't now, more amazing stuff for you. We're going to talk about the potential harms of Wi-Fi. We're going to talk a little bit about what Mormonism is. And we're going to probably have another science segment, maybe, if Hannah gets the shit together. But either way, support us on iTunes, follow us on Spreaker, and make sure you tune in to next week's episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all for tuning in. You are all fucking amazing. Have a good night, everyone.
You've been listening to a presentation of Cellar Door Skeptics. Check us out on Spreaker, cellardoorskeptics.com.